Hey, got one for you here. This is one you're gonna go through the process with me on, and that's the maintenance and servicing of a Talica 12. This is a 2-speed reel. I got this one from a buddy of mine who hooked me up with a really great price. I know he mentioned it to me once that, hey, we need to do some servicing on this, and I never got a chance to go and visit him on it. But he's also the same guy that helped me land my 100+ pounder. So I'm gonna go with him again this following weekend, and hopefully we're gonna repeat that process. Let's do this. I have a basic of hand tools here, screwdrivers in a couple of sizes. You're gonna need a little bit smaller to reach inside of this to be able to unscrew it, because everything that I have, the walls, it's just too narrow for these to go through them. So I'm using the smaller one first. I got a couple of variations. This is a round nose plier and a tweezer and a crescent wrench right here, and then just have some type of separator for all the screws and bits. I like to go in sequential order so that when I put it back I can go back in reverse. So we'll start with 4 screws right here, and we'll be unloosening the lever knob, and that's where we're going to start from. The next thing we're going to do is remove the tensioner knob for the drag, and that will allow us to remove the lever knob itself. So you see what it looks like inside. And that's the color that we have here. I don't know, my memory card's giving me some problems, so let's see if it if I have a full video out of this. It stopped already. I had to switch to 2 memory cards. So it's kind of lifting off from it, so let's see if it does. Now to unscrew this, remember it's clockwise. Use it ever so slightly, some torque. There's a spring inside of it. Alright, so we have the spring removed and that centerpiece. So we're going to try to drop these gears. Let's just see if it just springs out. There's the first gear. It's trying to come out, but not fully because of all that grease along that wall, which is pretty ugly. If you hear that in the background, it's actually my it's my iRobot just pounding on my door right now. Just kind of laughing about it. Okay, here there's an actual orientation, how it comes out. Let's see there, almost there. I'm trying to do it without all that grease. There we go. This is a locking pin that retains inside of it. And I feel a spring inside of that too. So the locking pin for your 2nd speed. So I'm just going to drop it in here, and I do see the spring right here. So now that I got those 2 off, let's see here. All off. pretty much everything's out there. One single washer, that's from the top of this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on cleaning this so you don't have to see this part. I'm just going to do my best and we'll go from there. Overall fairly clean. I'm going to do a Q-tip just to make sure it's nice and clean overall to get the little crevices that it can't reach. And then the next part is repacking this part with some grease on this. I mean, man, I'm looking at the component of this thing. This thing is like so beautifully machined, and I don't understand why it's so. It feels heavy to me. I'll be honest, compared to the, like. But I just like everything light too. But it just feels heavy. But it's wow. I'm looking at it like I see why. Such a beautiful build. This one's going to need a little bit more work to take everything off from the grease, from the teeth. So I'll be back for those. So I'll suggest ideally don't use a paper towel. The reason why is if it leaves any piece of remainings, it could give you any type of gritty feeling that you don't want. I'm just going to spray everything over. This is just like my initial wipe down, and I'm going to do a second one to remove final, which is I'm going to spray everything down with WD-40 and use a toothbrush to brush everything out. But this is just me removing the current grease. All right. So the gears and all the internal metal pieces on this side are being soaked in WD-40 right now before I brush it down with a soft bristle, but just so you take a look at what the internal currently looks like. Really clean. Important. Wow, that clicker is a nice build. So simplistic. Scales in here. We'll clean all this up. Really such a nice quality. Much appreciation when I see this, and enjoying this reel a lot more and seeing the value of why it's priced at its range. Obviously I haven't seen what the internals of like a Speedmaster looks like to compare. So 4 screws. plate. And here's your drag stacks right here. Here's the washer. Wow. And the drag itself, which is bolted down. You can see it. I'm just going to do a quick wipe down. So I'm still admiring this thing because I tried to order there's like a felt cows drags, and still hasn't came by. But I don't think you use it for felt now that I'm looking at it, because I think it was just for carbon. So I have this piece of bearing, gonna clean that out. And I do see how the grease on the shaft has turned kind of like a milky color, and it says that salt corrodes onto it and turns it into that color. Oh wow, another bearing inside of there. I don't think I'm gonna be able to get that out. But that's what makes this thing free spool so wild. It just keeps on going forever. I don't even think I need to add anything to it, to be honest. So I'm just cleaning up the top of the washers on the washer side of it, the inside. And I'll apply new grease there. It's like, it's so well thought out. I'm looking at this whole thing. You can't see it. This was a cover on it. And that little black strip right there is a gasket. So all these things are sealants to protect it from, water from entering in. I mean, it's just amazing. I'm looking at like just things that makes it last. It's gonna be fun using this. Okay, so the access plate, I'm looking at it right here. This is a bottom access plate. It is from the inside. I'm curious if I can, I haven't seen if I could. Don't think I could. Yeah, it's covered. I would need to remove the entire side plate if I wanted to grease it, but like pens, you could just, because it's plastic, you can remove it from the side and just always constantly grease it, but not necessary, right? So this is the handle itself, and if you look at it, I have a Q-tip in here. If you force it all the way in, you're able to pull down one of the, it's like a sleeve for the inside of it, and you do want to be able to get it out. It's going to be the old dirty grease in there. So whatever you can do to just kind of clean the insides of it as much as you can. Like even on the bottom side, you can see it's all milky white. This is pretty much all the parts cleaned up. I have it completely grease removed and now all dried, so ready to apply a thin sheet of grease right over it. So even on this part here, just a thin layer of it all around the coating. Nothing special really, just to keep any salt water from corroding on top of it and sitting there, right? That's it, just to protect the metal itself or the surface. And even some oil right on the bearing. So now that we have all this in here, it's all nice and sheened. What we're going to do is then we're going to drop in the washer. And once we drop in the washer, we're going to throw in the locking pin for the 2-speed. And that's what it'll look like. And from there, we're going to drop in the first big gear. The raised part of the inside is, was it upward? Oh, it's down. The raised part was down, so that there is a recessed area on the inside. That way your washer can go in, and this spacer, it's the white one, looks like this. So then that one can go in. And we're just centering that 2-speed in there. And we're going to drop in the last spacer, which is a locking spacer. And if you remember, it says clockwise to unscrew, so we're going to go counterclockwise. It's a good time to make sure that everything is nicely coated. Pop it into the low gear too, at the same time if you need to. Okay, so those are in. So we already had this all checked out, and we did apply some grease on it, and we just got to mate it up now. I think it's done. Took me a bit, but all dialed in. Strike's good. I had to just keep on fine tuning the drag setting, but here, check this out. Still good. Thank you guys for watching. Talica 12.